The Guangzhou Gymnasium in Guangzhou, China, where the United States basketball team plays the second game of its exhibition tour in China. They've got game, and they've got it with a pinch of Yao. 10,000 fans on hand in the Guangzhou gym, a sellout crowd for the USA against China in the China Basketball Challenge. With Bill Walton, I'm Jim Durham. Glad to have you with us tonight. LeBron James and Team USA ready to play its second game on this exhibition tour after a rousing win against Puerto Rico in Las Vegas on Thursday night, Bill.
Jim, this is the first of two games in Guangzhou for Team USA. Thursday night in Las Vegas, it was a tremendous performance keyed by starting point guard Chris Paul, who found numerous players, including LeBron James, in transition. Carmelo Anthony was an igniting force on the offensive end early on, but the Team USA capitalized on their overall depth and athleticism to throw down numerous opportunities generated by their great defense.
Time for the starting lineups, covered by State Farm. For the United States, Shane Battier, LeBron James, Dwight Howard round out the front line. Gilbert Arenas and Joe Johnson in the backcourt. No Dwyane Wade in that starting lineup. And as you look at the lineup for China, you'll see also absent there Yao Ming. Now, he is in uniform and will be available for the Chinese team, but not in the starting lineup tonight for China.
Yao Ming recovering from the Jones fracture that he suffered with 4 games to go in the NBA season last spring. Not quite ready to go right now. We will have to see if the Chinese coach, Jonas Kozlowskis, decides to use Yao Ming much tonight.
There's a look at some of the rule differences between FIBA and the NBA. 4 10-minute quarters as opposed to 4 12-minute quarters. The NBA free throw line much longer than FIBA by about 3 feet plus. And, of course, you can foul out with 5 fouls in FIBA, take 6 in the NBA. The free throw lane, which when you see the wide shot of the court, you will notice trapezoid shaped for international, and it's more rectangular for the NBA.
You also have a shorter court in FIBA competition. You have a different ball, which is a totally different touch than what NBA players are used to. And you have much different goaltending rules. We'll have to see how the U.S. handles the tough travel, the jet lag, the short turnaround from Thursday's game in Las Vegas. And now no more games for Team USA as the home court favorite.
So this will be their first encounter on foreign soil, if you will. And you got to think that the United States will be a little bit pumped up for this one, as is this crowd as the game starts out, and China controlling the opening tap.
Pressure defense, that's what Krzyzewski wants all the time, to create opportunities for transition in the open floor.
Post-game reach-in foul called on the United States, and it's on Dwight Howard. The officials tonight, Bill Kennedy from the NBA, Song Yongping and Yang Maogong are the other officials.
Never want to foul jump shooters as the player Fong Yu travels into the lane there. The hack down by Dwight Howard. Dwight Howard is a huge force in NBA basketball today and just getting started really in his career. No need whatsoever to try to hack down on the game's opening possession.
So Yi has the first 2 points of the ball game coming from the foul line, with China taking the lead. United States without Dwyane Wade in the starting lineup tonight. And on the catch and shoot, a little bit light as it sails out of bounds.
China starts out in a man-to-man defense, something that a lot of the teams in the exhibition games for Team USA utilize. Then they get into the real games that count in the tournament, and they play the zone defense, leaving the USA unprepared.
And an offensive foul is the call here against China. Zhu Fangyu picking up the personal foul.
Always difficult for the coach. Mike Krzyzewski, in his 9th appearance as a coach for Team USA, trying to find a way to get the team fired up to start these games.
Here's Joe Johnson for the U.S. United States working the weave. We showed you the rule differences between international and NBA. The shot clock is the same. 24 seconds to shoot in FIBA.
LeBron James trying to play defense here, forcing his opponent left. 3 possessions for China and not a smooth, fluid offensive attack yet, as the USA has committed 2 fouls out of the first 3 opportunities on defense.
And there's a reach-in foul called on the United States.
True to form, Mike Krzyzewski has changed the starting lineup today from the Thursday night game in Las Vegas, where Chris Paul, Carmelo Anthony, Dwyane Wade, and Chris Bosh were starters. Mike Krzyzewski doesn't want to get any sort of star system going here, so he's going to alternate that starting lineup.
The United States also will be having to cut down on its roster, which right now is at 14, with Amari Stoudemire not making the trip to the Far East. He went back to Phoenix on Thursday. U.S. almost turning it over, so they will have to cut 2 before they start play in the FIBA World Championship. So the United States on the board as Battier connects.
Shane Battier taking advantage of the beautiful ball movement, and now with the U.S. pressing up on defense, they've got a transition opportunity right here. Jonas Kazlauskas from Lithuania unhappy with that offensive sequence for China.
Johnson. A nice setup. Johnson on the follow. So Joe Johnson with a putback as the U.S. strings a couple of hoops together.
It was Joe Johnson and Gilbert Arenas who took the previous shot there that triggered that 19-2 run over the final 6:48 of the second quarter Thursday night in Las Vegas that blew that game open.
That, along with the big spurt early in the third, it totaled a 31-2 explosion by the United States to move out in front of Puerto Rico and wipe out a 4-point disadvantage. A foul called on China. The U.S. will be on the free throw line. Howard will be shooting 2.
Bill Kennedy making that call, sending Howard to the free throw line. But a perfect example there, Jim, of the USA trying to capitalize on what their strengths are. The team depth, use the whole roster, get everybody involved, the overall team speed, run on every single possession, press defensively and shoot every time you touch it. And then that pressing defense, which leads to constant transition opportunities, which must be converted.
5 straight points by the United States as Dwight Howard hits the free throw. Howard scored 5 against Puerto Rico in Las Vegas on Thursday. And the ball nearly tapped in by China, and they get 3 the hard way for Dwight Howard.
Coming right down the lane, the failure to block out for China will not sit well with Jonas Kazlauskas.
7:20 for the opening quarter with the United States on top.
Extending that defense, forcing every single Chinese player to handle that ball, preferably with his offhand.
And the ball knocked out of bounds by the U.S. on the cross-court feed. Each team with 2 team fouls in this first quarter so far early on. As China came in.
Shot clock violation there.
Violation.
Team USA did a fine job that time of extending that defense and capitalizing on the lack of time for China. Gilbert Arenas from deep.
It's saved in play, but to the U.S. China scored the first 3. The U.S. had come back with 7 straight.
And the way Shane, over the top. Beautiful ball movement by Team USA. Easy conversion inside for LeBron James.
LeBron James with his first 2. And a timeout taken here at the China Basketball Challenge, with the United States now working on a string of 9 straight. The U.S. has a 6-point lead as the timeout comes with 6:29 remaining in the opening quarter.
ESPN2's presentation of USA Basketball, brought to you by McDonald's and Gatorade Thirst Quencher. Gatorade, is it in you?
And we're back and underway as China on the push, trying to beat some of that USA pressure. A foul has been called on the United States.
Substitutions now for Krzyzewski out of that timeout. Brad Miller closing off defensively, as well as Kirk Heinrich. Did a fine job, Heinrich did, against Puerto Rico Thursday in Las Vegas.
Defensive rebound to the U.S. Heinrich exchanges with Joe Johnson.
Good quick ball movement. Nobody holding it. Offensive foul. Shane Battier down the lane.
Shane Battier has picked up his first personal.
Okay with the beautiful defensive position. Number 12 for China here in Guangzhou, where the Pearl River meets the South China Sea.
China trying to halt that run by the United States halfway, or I should say with about 6 minutes remaining in the quarter.
Notice how the USA is in a zone defense here. They're fronting the low post.
China having some difficulty figuring it out, and their shots are falling short.
China has never beaten the USA in FIBA competition. 8 games overall, 4 in the Olympics.
On the slash cut with a jam, it's LeBron James.
The inability of China to close out defensively and allow a player of LeBron James's capabilities to come down the lane with his strong hand. Inexcusable for coach Jonas Kozlauskas, who was Del Harris's assistant coach on the 2004 Chinese Olympic team in Athens.
Again from the perimeter. And here comes the United States. The U.S. did a good job on the boards against Puerto Rico on Thursday. They're doing a good job opening up tonight, and a three-point hit puts the U.S. up by 11. Battier connecting.
And this start by the USA has to please Jerry Colangelo, the director of everything for this team. And nice post-entry pass there.
They're going to score the goal and call the foul on Joe Johnson.
When the pass is that soft, the defense for the USA, they have to rotate quicker, get somebody into the air. But with David Stern also in attendance in Guangzhou, a very important moment for Team USA. It was this game the last time around in the preparation for Athens when they played Italy in their first game in Germany, where the Americans were blown out in a 20-point rout when the Italians were taking bows to the crowds when they were finishing on the fast break. Oh my goodness.
3-point play for Yi Yin-Yan, and he has 4 of the 5 China points.
And China's
of the 6, I should say. China's
coming with a press of their own here, which the United States should just dismantle with their overwhelming advantage in team speed.
4.5 left in the quarter. And it's a 3-point hit out of the corner by LeBron James. 7 points for LeBron of the 10 scored by the United States. So China getting an early dose of what Puerto Rico got for the most part in the second and third quarters the other night.
USA was actually behind well into that second quarter. And then it was the second unit, keyed by Heinrich, Joe Johnson, Shane Battier, Gilbert Arenas, that really came in and blew the game open. China is not making open shots, and that's a very difficult way to try to win a basketball game.
China coming in with a fresh 24. There you see the 41 points scored by the U.S. on 25 forced turnovers. And a 3-point field goal made brings China to within 17-9.
Here's a zone defense by China. They're changing up their defense literally every possession.
And off the pull-up, but a recovery by China. They get another 3 attempt.
Krzyzewski would love this pace if China would come up and shoot that quick of a jumper.
China with the steal and the easy one.
And that is why you don't throw the outlet pass down the middle of the court.
So China down 11 at one time, now has scored the last 5. They're within 6. About 3 minutes left in the quarter. Kirk Heinrich missing for 3 for the U.S.
The confidence of China.
How about this transition activity? Yi with the put down.
The crowd ecstatic in Guangzhou, which is the heart of the industrialized section of South China. Subtropical climate in Guangzhou.
United States, after having built that 17-6 lead and contact with Arenas on the move, the foul against China. Sun Yu picking up the personal foul.
Heinrich to the bench for Team USA. Battier remains. Joe Johnson looking very sharp in the early going here.
Good touch pass inside. Good work on the offensive glass by Howard.
But Howard goes out for a couple minutes to catch his breath. Krzyzewski wants to use this whole roster to capitalize on the overwhelming firepower that he has at his disposal.
We've played almost 8 minutes. We have yet to see Dwyane Wade in the lineup for the U.S. and China again getting to the rim.
Traveling
called on Joe Johnson.
Surprising to Joe Johnson, but not to those who were watching his feet shuffle.
China making a substitution as Chen Yanhua comes in and gets all the way to the cup. That ability to knock that ball off the rim in international play. It stays at that end. China keeps possession.
And while in the game Thursday night against Puerto Rico, the Puerto Rican national team, particularly Daniel Santiago, was adept at exploiting that rule difference. Early on tonight, it's the ability of the United States team to capitalize.
Another perimeter look for China. And the U.S. trying to extend on a 4-point lead. Pull up.
Shane Battier is everywhere.
So is that guy. LeBron James dropping home another 3. That's his second 3-point hit.
China has rebounded nicely from a sluggish start.
LeBron James with 10. And a foul called on the United States. It's on Howard. 2 fouls on Dwight Howard.
China's not shooting the ball well from the perimeter. But with their coaching staff, as Mike Krzyzewski gives LeBron James the instructions as to how they're going to defend this high screen and roll that China's been running. But with Jonas Kazlauskas, the Lithuanian, being the head coach and in charge of China basketball through the Olympics in Beijing, look for this Chinese team to really develop their fluidity on offense and the stroke and consistency on their perimeter jumpers.
As the free throw is made, it's 22-17. United States up by 5. They've led by as many as 11. 50 seconds for the quarter.
Milking the hot hand, LeBron James.
And the ball knocked away out of bounds. It was Gilbert Arenas getting a hand on it.
We're getting right down to the crunch time in terms of the Washington Wizards, whether they're going to match that offer to Jared Jeffries that the Knicks extended to that critical element of the Wizards' attack. Should be coming down any day now.
Chen working inside. Nice handoff. And now China back to within 3.
Beautiful rotating defense, China. They no longer appear to be totally intimidated as they were just 9 minutes ago.
You know, you were talking about the United States, how they've never lost in FIBA competition to China, nor the Olympics either, and they've never had a close game. But this first quarter's been close. How about that one?
LeBron once again with the left hand, and again the different rules where in NBA basketball that clock would have stopped when the ball went through. It just kept running out.
So the United States led by LeBron James with 12 points, with the lead at the end of one at Guangzhou, China. Starting lineup tonight, but Wade very solid in the U.S. win over Puerto Rico.
Dwyane Wade has established himself as maybe the best player in the game today throughout the world.
In the first quarter, there was a scoring discrepancy as we were going to break. They had the United States up by only 3, but it really is a 5-point U.S. lead. But I think in that first quarter, Bill, the one thing that we can take from it is the fact that China was very competitive.
And they did that without Yao Ming, without Wang Zhuzhu. So a very good situation for China. Can the United States capitalize on their superior depth to try to open this game up a little bit?
And LeBron James in that first quarter was credited with 13 points, so he'll open the second with 13.
But this will be something that the USA team has to deal with, and that is the discrepancy in consistency of scorekeeping, interpretation of rules, explanation of what's going on around here. And that is why Jerry Colangelo has insisted that the Team USA play a lot of exhibition games on someone else's court before.
Well, and that was the thinking in '04 prior to the Olympics, and that's why the United States played the 6 exhibition games.
Carmelo Anthony right off the bench here to start the second quarter. A recent change in FIBA competition, going from 2 20-minute halves to 4 10-minute quarters.
Another three-point look, and it was called short, and that it was. Nice find up the court, but a good recovery by China. U.S. going right back into the post.
Elton Brand.
He made his move. He's called for an offensive foul.
Just lost his balance, Elton did. Elton trying to become one of 5 players to ever play on multiple U.S. World Championship teams. Up to this point, there's only been 2.
And you probably have to wonder that when Elton Brand and Shane Battier left Duke, they probably felt like, well, we'll never play for Coach K again. But here they are.
But they're glad they're out there with Krzyzewski, who is just an exquisite basketball teacher. What a thinker, what a committed leader. It's all right there for the USA. The challenge begins in China.
Song Tiao Shang on the free throw line. Shang making the first and second free throws.
China has settled into a nice rhythm now, and the good thing for them is that they are not being harassed by USA's pressure defense.
Dwyane Wade sending a pass back outside, and the United States with the offensive rebound, but nothing happening on the putback except there was some contact and a foul on Shang.
Elton Brand, the lone low post offensive threat with his own individual moves. Who could forget the performances that he put on against Phoenix in this year's NBA playoffs? Record-setting numbers. Not seen since the days of Hakeem Olajuwon.
Wade is fouled and will get to the free throw line. D. Wade shooting 2. Dwyane Wade scored 14 the other night against Puerto Rico in the game at Las Vegas.
When you're on a great team, statistics are going to be irrelevant, in that your playing time is going to be limited. The opportunities for touches, they're not going to run constant plays for you. And the way that Krzyzewski has got this whole team structured with balance, with the camaraderie, with the team chemistry, it is not going to be about individual numbers.
You know, what we were talking earlier, Bill, about the 4 straight victories by the United States against China in FIBA competition. And no games were close. And when you put the Olympic scores up, the 4 straight wins, none of those were close. But China competitive tonight.
China has had great success in Asia. They are trying to take that to the world level. They win literally every international competition played among the Asian countries. Japan, the Philippines. But then when it comes to play the Europeans, the North Americans, it's a much different story for China.
And I think it's fair to say, too, about China, you know, it's been a team built around size. Yao Ming, Elton Brand picking up the foul. Wang Zhuzhu, who we're familiar with, who has played for 3 teams in the NBA over a 5-year career, not available because of injury tonight. But in this particular game, Bill, we're actually seeing some quickness. And that's why the United States, I think, hasn't been able to really pull away.
That's one of the few turnovers that the USA has been able to force. Nice conversion in transition.
Antoine Jamison with his first 2. So the U.S. back to a 9-point lead. Offensive foul.
Wave it off. Bill Kennedy steps right in and says that is not allowed. No restricted zone in FIBA rules. Interesting to see where Peter Uberoth the other day said that he fully expects China to dominate the Beijing Olympics with the amount of money and effort and focus that they are putting into developing talented young athletes.
You mean in all the sports?
In all the sports.
Right. So the U.S. with a hoop can equal its largest lead. And the long rebound gets China into a fast break situation. Chris Paul got back and forced the turnover.
Quick attack here, the turnover by China. But with that turnaround, very little. Oh, that first shot by Wade.
Yeah, he tried to get the foul called, and at the other end, it's a layup and a foul. The foul on Wade.
Spirited crowd at Guangzhou. Just about an hour plane ride from Hong Kong, where Team USA first landed over the weekend, coming from Las Vegas through San Francisco.
No foul call. 7-point game. Carmelo Anthony on the miss. Brand finds Jamison. Again, the U.S. with an offensive rebound. And again, it's Brand, and a nice feed along the baseline to Anthony.
Carmelo Anthony just has a nose for the ball. An incredible fact that this guy averaged 27 points a game last year for Denver as they went down in the first round of the playoffs to the Clippers. An injury-plagued season for Denver. Tough shot by China from the perimeter.
And the outlet turned over. So China will be coming in trailing by 9. I think the United States at this point, with 6:55 left in the second quarter, is feeling that maybe they're going to be tested in this game tonight.
If China could get somebody who's hot from the perimeter, that would greatly help their cause. Another turnover here. Wade finishing strongly, and that has to make Gatorade very happy. Gatorade has poured a ton of resources into a promotion to welcome Dwyane Wade to China. Free ticket. Gatorade's largest promotion in the history of China, built around Dwyane Wade right now.
And the foul here against China. Mo Qi called for the foul, number 12. So the U.S. with an 11-point lead. Apparently not. Apparently the U.S. turned it over.
Bruce Bowen now into the lineup. The oldest player by far on Team USA, which is built primarily around the draft class of 2003, which featured LeBron, Carmelo Anthony, Dwyane Wade, Chris Bosh, Kirk Heinrich.
You know, when it's all said and done, we may be talking about the 03 draft in the same reverence of the 84 draft that was so great.
Which gave Michael Jordan, Hakeem Olajuwon, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, all Hall of Famers, all top 50 players in the history of the NBA. What a crowd that was. So many of those players.
And Yi drops the free throw. Next Tuesday, a week from tomorrow at 1:30 Eastern. The United States in Seoul to take on Korea. And our coverage on ESPN, 1:30 Eastern Time, 1:30 p.m. That's the other thing about...
I'm glad you said p.m.
Well, you know, when you have such a difference in time zones and a day, it's on. I can never understand, Bill, whether it is the day after tomorrow there or the day before yesterday.
That's why you have to go back and study Magellan and Sir Francis Drake and all the great explorers who figured out Greenwich Mean Time.
So the U.S. with its biggest lead at 12 and 5:40 remaining in the half. Traveling.
Shuffling of the feet. Beautiful play that time. The set offense. Shen Zhuanhua comes off that down screen on the weak side, and there's very little the USA could do about it defensively, except Zhuanhua shuffled the feet on the start of the play.
And that's what the pressure will do to you. You know, it's not so much that the United States is going to be stealing the ball all the time. Carmelo Anthony knocking out a three-point field goal for the U.S. Anthony with 7. And the United States now with a 15-point lead. But it's having to go against it constantly.
And that's what Krzyzewski wants, is that constant pressure, which makes the players play at a speed that they're not used to.
Again, the United States with the steal and the run out to Dwyane Wade. And now it's a 17-point lead for Team USA.
The entire roster contributing right now. Chris Paul making a fine leadership stance out here. Everything going right for Krzyzewski, forcing China to take a break.
Time for McDonald's enduring moment. It takes place a long way from the hardwood during the '99 Tournament of the Americas. U.S. senior men's team member Kevin Garnett found himself in a full court press in the pool at the hotel. It was 1 on 100 with children of all ages and sizes. No fouls called as Garnett had to earn every basket.
Certainly some physical positioning underneath the hoop right there. How was your pool basketball game, Jim?
Not good.
Not good?
It's a lot like my regular basketball game. So the U.S. with a 17-point lead.
Very similar story to what happened in the Puerto Rico exhibition in Las Vegas. Flashes of good play by the opponent, either China or Puerto Rico, but then just the constant wearing down, eroding the confidence and the capabilities, productivity of the opponent. Another turnover, Carmelo Anthony.
It's unclaimed yet, and the whistle is a foul on China. Liu Wei picks up the foul.
It was so nice to see the supportive comments by Jim Boeheim, assistant coach to Mike Krzyzewski on the squad, about Carmelo Anthony and about the way that Carmelo has developed and grown. And a turnover here. Chris Paul, Bruce Bowen can't even get the ball in bounds for Team USA.
Some violation on the sideline, bringing it in. So at about the 4.5-minute mark, China with a chance to try and stem the tide somewhat. But it's an offensive foul. Du Fang picking up the foul.
China's coach, Jonas Karslauskas, is doing a tremendous amount of substituting of his own, getting all of his players ready. We have not seen Yao Ming yet. We have not seen Wang Zhuzhu, two of the 3 players from China who have played in the NBA.
Well, I'm under the impression that Wang Zhuzhu is injured and cannot play, and that Yao is perhaps looking to play, coming back from his injury.
Yao is very close. Wang Zhuzhu was recently injured in an exhibition match in Strasbourg, Germany, when they were playing, or Strasbourg in France or Germany these days. They keep changing it with every war that they have in Europe.
Well, it was against France.
It was against France in Strasbourg.
Yes, that's right. Chris Bosh, who started on Thursday in Las Vegas, in the lineup now for the United States. A 20-point lead.
Krzyzewski wanted full court pressure. Remember, this court is more than 2 feet 2 inches shorter than a regular NBA court. Finally, a perimeter jumper goes down for China.
Due connecting on that one.
Here's Bosch, who definitely has three-point range.
But not this time.
At the international level, literally every one of these guys should have.
Well, you're right. I mean, it's a 20-foot. Yeah, it's a 20-foot shot, roughly.
It's about 6 inches longer than the NCAA line. And there's back-to-back three-pointers. China making some noise here, much to the delight of the loyalists here at Guangzhou Gymnasium.
6 straight points for China. Elton Brand underneath, and a foul against China.
And the trapezoid lane, which used to cause the United States players a tremendous amount of difficulty when they made the transition, has not been a factor so far. I like the wider base. Keeps the middle more open, forces players to step away from the basket and not just rely on their overwhelming size and strength.
I think that is also what has led to what we have come to learn as the international game, with the big guys playing on the perimeter.
It's not a low post power game where you just throw it in, lower your shoulder, use your head as a battering ram, and get to the hoop for a throwdown. No, it's step out to the high post, drop some passes to backdoor cutters. Vlade Divac was such a classic example of what a great international post player should be.
A little light with that shot on the perimeter, and as the ball is deflected out of bounds by China, the U.S. with a chance to extend on a 16-point lead. Its biggest has been 20.
Hesitation here by Elton Brand.
That's almost like a signature move. Brand connecting at the right elbow, so it is back to an 18-point lead for the United States.
He freezes the defender with that little jab step, and just a plethora of whistles out here as referees seem intent on putting their brand on this game.
A foul on the United States.
Mo Key back into the lineup for China and Kozlowskis.
And Sun Yu also has come in, number 9. Well, the United States will be taking on Brazil, and we'll be seeing some familiar NBA faces in that game. We will not have it for you on ESPN2 or ESPN, but that comes up tomorrow in this China Basketball Challenge.
Leandro Barbosa, just recipient of a very nice 5-year contract extension. Nene coming back from the knee injury. Be very interesting to see how he is able to perform in his first action back.
Anderson Varejão, yes, of the Cleveland Cavaliers. Oh, good feed. And count the basket and a foul. Bosch will have a chance at a three-point play.
The length and the touch of Chris Bosch, who's able to pull in this pass a little bit off the mark, but with the defense collapsing and nowhere near the size or vertical leaping ability of Chris Bosch, there's nothing they can do other than foul and send Chris to the free throw line.
The second foul on number 11, Yi. And China the rebound, down 18. Chris Bosch, 5 points, 2 field goals, and a free throw added. And remember, he didn't start tonight. A ball knocked away by Elton Brand, and last touch by China as it went out of bounds to the U.S.
Get on the run right now if you're Chris Paul. Don't walk that ball up. You never want to come to a stop when you're the smallest guy in the court.
So it's back to a 20-point lead as Brand delivers again for the U.S.
One of the reasons Brand will be so successful is that he has such a fluid touch to his shot. This is not a guy who just relies on dunking and being the biggest, strongest, most powerful guy.
That's Liu scoring for China. A quick look at a three, and why not? Dwyane Wade sticking the three. The United States up by 21.
That was almost as if to say, oh, so you're not going to start me, coach? I can come in and put this one up.
And he's also saying to the Team China, you're not going to guard me?
Well, when China drops back into that zone defense, I think every now and then it's a good idea to come up and just let it fly over the top.
Good deal. Bosch on the put down. 7 points for Bosch.
Tremendous execution against that zone defense, which has not shown any ability to slow down the USA whatsoever.
And the United States, who put 116 points on the board the other night against Puerto Rico, are probably going to hit halftime at about 120 pace. 120-point pace in not a 48-minute game, but a 40-minute game. Elton Brand on the turnaround.
His game from 17 feet on in is flawless. I mean, every shot he takes goes in. Tremendous rebounder. Always willing to lay it off to wide open teammates. I think that's one of the nice things about this squad right now is that we've seen spark, we've seen enthusiasm and intensity, industriousness from the very beginning, and we haven't seen a single bit of selfish or individual play.
And the U.S. can have the final say in the half.
Dwyane Wade again from the perimeter.
And stole the outlet pass to make sure that China didn't get a thrust up the court. So the United States showing its depth tonight. They didn't start Wade. They didn't start Bosch. Those two guys started on Thursday, but Bosch came off the bench to score 7. And the U.S. comfortably in front by 23 at the half. And it is halftime as we start the third quarter here with the United States in front by 23. Dwyane Wade on the run out there.
Great start for Team USA in this game. The Chevy game track, Jim.
With the United States shooting 57% from the field. LeBron James leading the U.S. with 12 points. Carmelo Anthony added 10. 14 China turnovers. Any of that look familiar?
It's because of the pressure defense that Krzyzewski is employing here, using the entire roster to extend the pace of this game.
And now the third quarter underway from Guangzhou Gym in Guangzhou, China.
The USA had a dominating 2-to-1 ratio in rebounds, and they also had 9 offensive rebounds in this game, which almost matched the total rebound number for China in the first half alone.
And off penetration, the ball knocked away by the United States.
The China Challenge here in Guangzhou, the subtropical region of southern China, right along the South China Sea. Another turnover. Brad Miller doing a nice job.
Oh, and a nice setup, too. LeBron James sending it down, and LeBron James has 14.
They will tease Brad Miller about this relentlessly in the film sessions here. Brad going back to his days in rural Indiana before going to Purdue and Gene Cady.
And we get a whistle here against the U.S. with the United States up 25. Kirk Heinrich called for the foul.
So the starting lineup here in the third quarter is Brad Miller, LeBron James, Shane Battier, Kirk Heinrich for Mike Krzyzewski.
Mo Key on the free throw line for China. And there's Jonas Kazlauskas, the head coach of Team China. And our good friend Del Harris coached China during the Olympic run in 04.
Did a fine job and was instrumental in taking Yao Ming to the next level.
The three goes down for Joe Johnson.
Joe Johnson continues to play spectacular basketball. And you watch Joe, and everything he does on the court is just flawless. the execution of every single fundamental, the decision making. Nicest play of the game offensively for China.
Yi coming up with it. And Yi has scored 9 points so far tonight. Nice look away feed to Miller at the rim, and a foul on China. Brad Miller on the line.
Such beautiful basketball. The team game, which Krzyzewski and Jerry Colangelo are insistent upon. This is not going to be a group of individual stars playing one-on-one basketball while everybody else stands around and watches.
That was LeBron James sending that pass in.
Regrettably, since September 4th, 2002 in Indianapolis, when the United States went down to Argentina, the United States is 6-6 in international competition. Unheard of.
And now the U.S. on top, 68-39. It was a sixth place finish at Indianapolis for the U.S. in the FIBA World Championship that year in 2002, and that was the poorest finish for the United States in the World Championship competition.
There's been 2 fifth-place finishes, 78 and 1970. But right now, this USA team looks incredibly dominant. And the versatility of all the different types of players. LeBron James out pressing on the defense. Joe Johnson, Carmelo Anthony, Dwyane Wade, interchangeable.
You know, Bill, we were talking about it on Thursday night at Las Vegas about the United States and their style of play now, which perhaps will lead to the, you know, the world trying to assume that. You know, you usually go by what's working. And what's working, apparently, is the tenacious pressing defense, forcing the opposition into turnovers.
I think one of the best things that Jerry Colangelo did was to have a large roster, 24, 25 guys that you can pick from at any time. Remember, Dwyane Wade and Carmelo Anthony joined the Athens Olympic team just a month before the game started. They had no idea, but because of last-minute injuries and personal problems, there's always going to be a situation where you need more players.
And these guys, hammer dunk by LeBron James. That's 16 for James. These guys are making 3-year commitments to USA basketball.
And the USA, they have to win the tournament in Saitama, Japan, starting on August 19th, or they'll have to qualify next summer, 2000, for the Beijing Games back here in China.
So 70-39 U.S. with a timeout taken. We got 6:53 left for the third quarter. And this, the first game of the China Basketball Challenge. And the United States running away with another one. And tomorrow night on ESPN2 at 9:30 Eastern, WNBA action comes your way. The Minnesota Lynx against the Phoenix Mercury. Tonight from Guangzhou Gym in Guangzhou, China. The China Basketball Challenge featuring the United States against China. Brazil, the other team represented here, and the U.S. will be playing Brazil tomorrow. The United States starting with the World Games in 2002, the FIBA World Championship at Indianapolis. Bill, you touched on that in the earlier segment here in this second half. They've lost 6 games their last 2 times out in international play.
Disheartening, dispirited performances by the USA, and Jerry Colangelo, as proud an American as there is, he will not stand for this, as things have radically changed with the whole makeup of what's going on with USA basketball.
And now with Joe Johnson connecting on that one, the United States up by 33.
Out in transition again, Brad Miller.
I tell you what, you get the feeling with Miller finishing off his first field goal in the game. You get the feeling, Bill, that the rest of the world, by the time the World Championship starts in Japan, the other countries are going to be saying they're back.
You're looking at a team that is in perfect physical condition, that has depth, quality, talent at every roster spot. And so Krzyzewski has unlimited opportunities and ways he can go. What's the rest of the world going to do about it? Which, at best, they're going to have a couple of good players based on relative levels to the United States, and a shot clock violation right here for China. The Chinese seem to have fallen apart.
Yes, the turnovers now for China are coming in all shapes and sizes. They were competitive early on. We noted during that stretch, Bill, that they had some quickness. They were able to hang in the first quarter and a half or so of tonight's game. But then the U.S. established a 23-point lead by halftime. And they're off to a great start here in the third, much the way they did against Puerto Rico.
But without Yao Ming, without Wang Zhuzhu, without Li Nan, who will definitely miss the 2006 FIBA World Championship in Japan, that small forward at 30 years old, he was their best backcourt player in Athens, averaging nearly 12 points a game.
But if you're going to compete with this United States team, you have to have good guard play. You have to have people that can handle the ball, make the pass, work against this pressure defense.
And that's what Argentina has. That's what Italy has. That's what Spain has. That's what Lithuania has. Plus, they have big guys who can handle the ball.
And Italy will be competing against the United States in the preliminary round in Group D. As the lead mounts, LeBron James scoring 2 more. They have LeBron with 19 points in this game. But the correct total is actually 18. He inadvertently was given a point in the first half that's never been corrected yet on the scoreboard in the Guangzhou gym.
This is the first time that a USA national team has ever played in China.
Denied, but China scores.
Penetration and dish, a style that can be built upon.
And now China with a chance in transition. 2 hits in a row from deep.
If Dwyane Wade had done that move, that would have been a traveling violation.
So the U.S. right now cruising with a 33-point lead, 4.5 left in the third.
Another great thing that Jerry Colangelo has done is involved the ex-Olympians, the ex-World Championship players. We saw Magic Johnson. Clyde Drexler is on the trip to Guangzhou.
That's a shot clock violation against China.
Because one thing that Colangelo is always trying to do is to teach and preach accountability and responsibility. And when you bring players like Magic and Clyde Drexler and Spencer Haywood and all the legends of years gone by, that only rubs off on these young and very impressionable representatives of the United States.
And a lot of the former past Olympians, for the most part, were introduced during the game in Las Vegas on Thursday against Puerto Rico. A lot of those guys you're talking about.
Brad Miller is having the time of his life. He's thinking he's a 6'4" forward playing in this international style of ball. And he's up in the passing lanes. He's moving, flashing from the weak side, out in transition.
And still China, though, getting some results from the perimeter. Their last 3 field goals coming from long range.
You would expect that the practice habits will change dramatically over time for the Chinese basketball program on a national level. Basketball has taken over as the #1 sport in China from soccer. Just don't have the space here for the world's most populous country. 1 in every 5 people on earth live in China.
And that's the way it should be, right? Basketball taking over from soccer.
The World Championship of basketball this tournament, which the USA is building up as Brad Miller continues his onslaught, it is the most important international competition. You talk to the players from the old Yugoslavia, the Tony Kukocs, the Vlade Divac, they'll tell you that nothing is more important than the World Championship, even the Olympic Games.
Due scoring, and it's a 34-point USA lead.
And coincidentally, it's Yugoslavia that has the most success historically in this terrific World Championship tournament.
They're the defending champions. Man, Brad Miller has it stuck on automatic.
Brad Miller is going to go back to tell Eric Musselman, hey, I'm a guard. Forget this center stuff.
3 straight hits from 3 for Brad Miller. Nice tap out, keeping the ball alive for China, but now it's the U.S.
Fabulous run out by Gilbert Arenas. He made the whole play happen defensively with his fly by, and then his teammates wisely realize, hey, reward the guy that creates the opportunity on the defensive end.
That's the first points of the game for Arenas.
Krzyzewski's going to have a very tough decision when he whittles this roster down. 2 guys have to be left off the team. They'll have the opportunity, the 2 players that don't make the final 12-man roster, to stay with the team and practice, but there will be no obligation to stay on through the Saitama Championship game in Japan, September 3rd, Labor Day weekend.
It starts on the 19th, and the United States will be opening in the preliminary round in Group D against Puerto Rico.
It's a 30-day road trip for these guys.
It's not only that, but the similarity between this competition and the 2004 Olympics in Greece, remarkable. They opened against Puerto Rico then, after having thoroughly thrashed them in their first exhibition game. They went in and got dumped by 19.
Led by Carlos Arroyo over the top. LeBron James, one of the few plays he has not converted tonight.
China coming up with the recovery as we near the 1-minute mark for the 3rd. And USA cruising with a 39-point lead.
Kirk Heinrich's pressure defense continues to be a major factor.
That was a set shot from 3. And both of the 3 attempts coming up short. LeBron saying, you know the one I didn't get the last time down? I got it that time.
So many finishers at Krzyzewski's disposal. I mean, you have the beautiful point guards in Heinrich, Chris Paul, and Gilbert Arenas, but the guys in the wing, goodness gracious. Beautiful defense by Brad Miller one more time. Shane Battier forces the double clutch, and then Miller comes in behind to just send it all back.
Bill, in these 2 games that we've covered so far of the United States, you know, we've been talking a lot about their pressure defense and how they can put the, defensive pressure up the floor. Their half-court defense is pretty good, too.
Solid as can be. They haven't really been able to get into the back court. Finally, one of those 3-pointers for China goes down as they whittle this remarkable lead down to an incalculable figure for me, Jim.
Well, that would be 38. Bro.
38? Okay.
It was 41. 41, the biggest lead for the U.S. as they take down the final seconds and hanging that shot off the glass, LeBron James, but he drew the foul.
And what's great about games like this is that for the Chinese people, all of them who are now playing basketball and dreaming about Yao Ming, they get to see plays like this at a very early age. And this will be all over Chinese television. And the young boys and girls, they'll go out there on the court and say, hey, I can do that. And that is what has changed everything to bring players like Yao Ming, Dirk Nowitzki, Steve Nash to the forefront of the world.
Well, the Americans have always played the game with a flair. And we talked about that the other night, too. And when we come back for the 4th quarter, we'll touch on it. But that 3rd quarter for the U.S., it was Miller time, my friend. It was Brad Miller time as he exploded. And the U.S. are up by 40. And the China Basketball Challenge rolls on from Guangzhou, China. Time now for the Nike storyline of this game, with the United States cruising to this 40-point lead. LeBron James has gotten one more than he deserves. 23 points. Brad Miller scored 14, hit 3 threes in the third. Yao Ming yet to play for China. Next Tuesday, the United States against Korea from Seoul at 1:30 p.m. Eastern on ESPN. LeBron James, who has been credited with 23 points tonight.
But literally every player on the roster has made a positive contribution. And that's such a change from what happened in 2002, 2004, when a couple guys would play well, other players would be over on the sideline moping around. And that's really one of the things that Krzyzewski and Colangelo have done in assembling this roster. Chris Paul back in the lineup right now.
One of the few U.S. players yet to score tonight. Kirk Heinrich has yet to score in this one. And Bruce Bowen, who didn't score against Las Vegas.
And another factor that's totally different is that in this initial part of the Asian trip, this road trip, which will last more than 30 days, is that right now no friends and family are on the trip. It's just the players and the staff,
as they want to take a business-like approach.
Friends and family will be allowed to come for the medal round, which will start very late August and conclude with the semifinals and finals on September 1st and 3rd. LeBron James wearing number 6, earning a trip to the free throw line here.
Again, for those of you joining us, the FIBA differences from the NBA: 4 10-minute quarters, a shorter three-point line, 5 fouls as opposed to 6, trapezoid free throw lane as opposed to the NBA's rectangle.
And it's a different ball with some multicolored panels, and the players were all given one of these balls just before or just at the end of the NBA season so they could get the feel. The feel is much different than what the NBA players are used to, and the seams have a different grip to them. Beautiful extension on defense by Chris Bosh.
And it's Bosh inside, sending it back out to Paul, and he has it knocked loose. Paul, a steal, and it's an over and back violation on Wade, who ended up with the ball in his hand and his momentum carrying him into the backcourt.
With the U.S. on an offensive explosion tonight in Guangzhou, China, interesting to note that the most points ever scored at the World Championship tournament was in 1990. When the United States had 146 points against South Korea. Reggie Miller led Team USA with 31 points in that game. Alonzo Mourning had 29.
On a pass into the post, a foul called on Wade. So D. Wade picking up the personal foul. We've played almost a minute in the fourth. And a sellout crowd at the Guangzhou gym. Over 10,000 looking on. Another foul on the United States.
Nice exchange on the strong side to get a mismatch with Chris Paul trying to deny a big 7-footer for China down low.
Another steal by the U.S. This time the lob pass doesn't work to Anthony, and underneath on the offensive rebound, a foul.
This will send Dwyane Wade back to the free throw line. Bill Russell, who's always been a mainstay of USA basketball, playing in the 1956 Olympics, causing him to miss the first half of his rookie season in the NBA. But Bill Russell was instrumental in helping recruit Dwyane Wade to Marquette. Bill Russell, a close personal friend of Coach Tom Crean there, and he was explaining to Dwyane Wade, who was then in high school and deciding where to go to college, that, like, if you go with this guy Tom Crean, you're not only going to learn about basketball, you're going to learn about life, you're going to learn about academics, succeeding in the face of adversity, and what a choice it was for Dwyane to go up to Marquette.
So Wade pumps in 2 free throws. He's got 13 points so far. The U.S. with a 34-point lead. Wade, one of those players who, you know, he was a good player in high school. He wasn't a great player. He wasn't really recruited by the big schools so much. And Marquette found themselves with a diamond in the rough. And, man, was he something by the time he played his last year there.
Jim, it's a very short list of players who have been great at every level. And when I had the privilege of broadcasting LeBron James' first national game a few years ago when he was in high school, right, in Akron, the consensus of all the legends that I interviewed about who the top players were in the history of basketball at all levels, in chronological order, it came out to be Wilt Chamberlain, Oscar Robertson, and Kareem Abdul-Jabbar. LeBron James has a chance to join that group. That's how good he is.
As far as winning championships, how many do you know won at every level? They went for the alley-oop off the inbounds pass and sort of misconnected there. Wade couldn't put it down.
Every level would have been Kareem Abdul-Jabbar by himself. Wilt and Oscar did not win NCAA championships.
I'm sorry, I'm putting Quinn Buckner in there. 2 state high school championships, a national championship at Indiana, gold medal in '76, NBA championship with the Celtics. That's all there is, my friend. You were with him with the Celtics, right? Were you there then?
I was one of the players, along with Jerry Seasting, who replaced Quinn Buckner. It took a lot of us to replace Quinn. Quinn now doing an outstanding job in the front office for the Indiana Pacers.
And this one now is a mere 40-point difference. With 7:50 remaining, the United States had 93 points after 3 quarters tonight. And we had already alluded to a possibility of a U.S. record as far as international play is concerned. But with 7:40 left, they got a long way to go. Bill talked about the 146 that the U.S. team put up against South Korea in 1990.
I like the way that the U.S. is attacking the zone defense. Jim Boeheim, who's a master at both ends of the zone defense, and able to create a mindset of this USA team of how to attack. Get the ball to one side, swing it to the other, maybe look for a lob on a baseline cutter. It's all been on display tonight. But what we haven't seen is a dominating performance from China. Because for the last 30 years, China has been absolutely the kingpin of Asia basketball. They've won the gold medal in 14 of the last 16 Asian championships, getting the silver in '97, the bronze in '86. But China has never finished better than 8th in either the Olympic Games or the World Championship.
And China turns it over, trying to inbound along the baseline, and the U.S. turns it over, trying to run the court.
And that is why you never let the ball bounce. When you're out in front of the fast break and they throw you the long lead one, always put your arm out and stop it before it has a chance to hit the ground and maybe take an errant bounce.
I could have that top spin on it and just scoot right away from you. One thing China has done very well tonight is shoot from the perimeter. And now they've got a chance to string a couple of hoops together.
But what a luxury for Krzyzewski to be able to bring a player like Carmelo Anthony off the bench. And the crowd coming alive here. The Thundersticks.
It's down to less than 40, but excuse me, it's back to a 41-point game with Bosch hitting from deep.
They will talk about that for a long time.
Up and under reverse. There's Mike Krzyzewski and his staff. A quick look at them.
Which includes Mike D'Antoni, Jim Boeheim, the Hall of Famer Jim Boeheim from Syracuse, and Nate McMillan, the man charged with rebuilding the Portland Trailblazers.
And Rudy Tomjanovich, the head of scouting with USA Basketball.
And what an advantage that is to have a man of Rudy's capabilities on your staff.
China turning the ball over. We were talking during our game in Las Vegas the other night how he took that team in '98 to the World Championships to Athens, and that was the year that the NBA was in lockout and he had no NBA players.
That was one of the truly great coaching accomplishments in the history of USA Basketball, to take that squad with a look at the upcoming schedule. Brazil tomorrow, next week from Korea, Lithuania, and Korea, the host country.
And that one we have on ESPN at 1:30 p.m. Eastern. Carmelo Anthony, who led the United States in scoring in their win against Puerto Rico, didn't start tonight, but Anthony having a terrific game nonetheless.
The guy's a winner wherever he goes. Unlike me, where they all complain, they're all really happy with Carmelo Anthony. NBA third team All-League this past season.
And China able to get inside of that vaunted U.S. defense. Chen on the score, and now a straightaway look at a three leads to China in transition.
It's great because China is getting pounded here.
A two-hand jam on a beautiful setup to Carmelo Anthony makes it a 40-point lead again for the U.S. halfway through the fourth quarter.
Dwyane Wade setting up Carmelo. And what a threesome that is. This has become just an exhibition here. They're going to call a violation of some sort.
I believe it will be traveling, and I believe it will be on Dwyane Wade.
How surprising.
The timeout taken as USA Basketball continues to roll with a lopsided lead against China and 4:53 left.
ESPN2's presentation of USA Basketball, brought to you by State Farm. Great service, great rates. You can get it all from State Farm. And Chevrolet, America's brand. Chevy, an American revolution.
And the United States up 106-66. Time for the Sprite plays of the day. And in a game like this, there are a lot of plays you could pick.
The over-the-top pass. LeBron James able to finish uncontested. A beautiful start for LeBron James, and there was nothing that Jonas Kozlauskas could do about it.
And when the preliminary round of the FIBA World Championship gets underway, the United States on August 19th opens against Puerto Rico on ESPN2. The next day against this China team on ESPN2. Then after an off day, they play against Slovenia. They'll have Italy and they'll have Senegal. And Bill, you already talked about, well, Italy has pretty good guard play because we were mentioning against the pressing defense. That's what you have to have now to play against the U.S. Good guard play.
Particularly since Krzyzewski is going to come in waves and wants to extend the defense well into the backcourt.
That's the thing. Now, most of these teams may have one or two pretty good guards, but, you know, the United States, as you say, with its depth, they can put that constant pressure on you until you have to get into your bench some.
And an analysis of that schedule, 5 games in the first 6 days, you're going to have to use your entire roster.
It was Elton Brand leaving it short.
A rare miss for Elton.
Absolutely.
Didn't play much there in the third quarter. So very difficult when you're up 40 points and then the coach says, okay, go in there and mop up here. Elton Brand, the franchise player for the Los Angeles Clippers.
Almost 6 minutes have been played in this fourth quarter, and the United States during that stretch has scored on just 13 points, but they do force China into yet another turnover.
Appeared to be a shot clock violation with the run out defensively, forcing that extra pass.
Right down the pipe on a straight on 3. That's Antoine Jamison. You know what's interesting? This game has been lopsided for a long time, since midway in the second quarter. No one has left.
No, they're not going anywhere. And they're excited as can be about there's more games tomorrow.
And they're enjoying watching the United States team play.
And they've incorporated in the presentation of the game a lot of the things that we are accustomed to with NBA basketball, with the dance teams and the mascots. There's a huge roster of international stars here for this China Challenge in Guangzhou.
Antoine Jamison on the line for the U.S. The United States in all likelihood will better their 116-point outing against Puerto Rico the other night.
Yes.
Or 114.
But a far cry from the 146 record.
Right.
World Championship competition. How tough is it, though, for Antoine Jamison? Here he is, one of the game's top players, a turnover, rare for the United States. Chris Paul just hasn't seemed to have the flow tonight that he had against Puerto Rico Thursday in Las Vegas. But when you're Antoine Jamison, and as great as he is, and then you look up and down the roster, and you got Carmelo Anthony, Dwyane Wade, LeBron James, Joe Johnson basically playing the same position. Tough miss there, draw the mockery of the crowd.
Sun Yu on the miss. And with about 2.5 minutes left, China brings it back.
Bruce Bowen is in that same position, right, as Antoine Jamison.
So that was Yi Libin.
China unable to exert any sort of defensive pressure on the perimeter. Carmelo Anthony. It was last year at this time when he was playing so well. And then, not last year, 2 years ago.
Right.
In the build-up to Athens. And he just couldn't get any playing time, and it totally frustrated him. And he went from being the best player on the team in the exhibition to just sitting on the bench and moping about it.
But now the 3 youngsters who were, coming off their rookie years, and those 3, of course, being LeBron James, Carmelo Anthony, and Dwyane Wade, now they're really the leaders of this group.
They're the core. They're the guys who Colangelo and Krzyzewski are looking to for everything. Leadership, personality, inspiration, and productivity and efficiency.
Look at this. Bruce Bowen down, forcing a turnover. Bowen giving Team China a look at why he has been the NBA's premier defender on the perimeter almost his whole career.
Elton Brand down that lane. There's really nothing that the Chinese front line can do against him other than foul him multiple times.
So Elton Brand on the line for the United States. He has scored 12 points for the U.S.
So a very good showing for the United States. No signs really of jet lag and the tough travel. A whole different day and time zone shifts.
But tomorrow the U.S. will be having its second and final game in the China Basketball Challenge against Brazil. We won't have it for you, but it'll be interesting to see how they play against the Brazilian team, which will feature a number of NBA players. Well, after tonight, the United States will play a couple of games without our coverage, and then we will have their final exhibition game coming up from Seoul on next Tuesday, August 15th at 1:30 p.m. Eastern Time against Korea. And the U.S. routing Puerto Rico on Thursday past in Las Vegas, 114-69. Forcing the 25 turnovers, scoring from long distance, and using a 31-2 run to blow it open. Then in this game tonight, Bill, similar in that it was a late push at the end of the first half and an early charge in the third, and it was out of sight after that.
You would expect that trend to continue, Jim, because the USA is going to play a certain style. The type of personalities that they have on this team, totally dedicated to the team game, the way that Krzyzewski wants this team to represent the United States on the court and off, has really been refreshing here in his first time out against China.
You know, the games are starting to come now on almost a daily basis, and you talked about how the families aren't with the United States players right now and will come later in the championship in the medal round. But you know, this is a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for these guys to be in China, Korea, Japan. I mean,
especially this part of China. This is the industrial heart of the world's fastest growing economy, and all the things you hear about what's going on in China. We hear about Shanghai, we hear about Beijing, but Guangzhou in the Guangdong province, that's what's happening right now economically. That's why these games are being played here. That's why David Stern is here. That's why all the marketing partners are so involved with USA Basketball in this event right now. The first time that the NBA really has come back to China in the last 2 years, since Yao Ming's triumphant return 2 years ago with the Sacramento Kings. Or was that last year? I think that was last year.
Yep. Chris Paul on the free throw line.
Where does the time go?
I don't know, but you know what? It goes faster all the time.
So Team USA averaging about 116 points a game in their first 2 games.
They are averaging, a little better than that.
That'll get it done.
Those free throws by Paul, his first points of the game with 14.7 left. China to come in. No Yao Ming tonight. The China team did not go with their NBA star, so he continues to rehab the broken foot which he suffered late in the season with the Rockets, and will be available for them hopefully in the World Championship. Wade making the steal, and time runs out with the ball loose, so it comes to an end, and the United States cruises to another victory, 119-73.
A tremendous offensive explosion. Yao Ming looking fine as he's walking off the court here, saying hi to so many of his friends that he competes against on a regular basis during the NBA schedule. Antoine Jamison, the traditional procession. Joe Johnson, who was spectacular whenever he was on the court tonight.
And after the first quarter tonight, when the United States was up by 5, 24-19, it was never in doubt. They were up 23 at the half, 40 after 3, and they win by that final score.